Hi friends, when I started making these videos, I wanted to talk about areas that interest me, and they included history, spirituality, and literature and poetry. Now, some people like history, there are others who like some of my spirituality videos but are not too much interested in Indian history. But there is one man and one book that cuts across all of these topics equally. It is a great part of India's history heritage. It is unbelievably beautiful spirituality at its best, and it is definitely the most amazing poetic work I have read and forms a part of one of the greatest literary achievements of all time. With that introduction, I must bow down my head and talk about the man who was the first Asian to win the Nobel Prize in any category, Rabindranath Tagore. Now, you may not be aware, but when the his book called Gitanjali was written in 1910 in Bengali, then translated in English in 1912, and he was awarded the Nobel Literary Prize in 1913. British government was not that interested. They didn't want a nation from their Indian colony to get it. But his work won the hearts of so many people, even in Britain, that it was given to him. Now, I'll tell you something about this amazing man. Okay, some most people probably know that, of course, apart from writing the national anthem, what became the national anthem of India, Janagana Man, he is also at credited with having written the national anthem of the country that later became Bangladesh, that is Amar Sonar Bangla. But also, he had an important role to play in the older Sri Lankan national anthem also, to some extent. Now, with this kind of lineage of a man, what happens is when you pick up a book, you already have heard so much about him since all your childhood, that when I, in my 20s, finally got hold of Gitanjali, I was like, you know, I've heard so much hype of Rabindranath Tagore. And mind you, there are some people, especially on the right, in politics, that do not have that much, probably, what do you gonna call, maybe you can say affection for him or something. But I would just like to point out, there is no man, I think, who is so much equally important to people across political spectrum during the Indian freedom struggle, from the left to the right, like Rabindranath Tagore. If you recall, he was the man who gave the title of Mahatma to Mahatma Gandhi. He was hugely admired by most Congress leaders, but at the same time, I don't know how many people know that one of the key members of the Hindu Mahasabha, Dr. Shama Prasad Mukherjee, and the founding member of the Janasangh, equally considered him like a father figure. He had a huge role to play in Shama Prasad Mukherjee's career, and after the death of Shama Mukherjee's father, Shama Prasad Mukherjee pretty much considered him like a father. That was his role in Shama Prasad Mukherjee's career. People also, you may be aware that there was a very intense rivalry, you can say, between Rabindranath Tagore and the other famous poet of that time, Allama Iqbal. In fact, people say that Iqbal was extremely jealous of the fact that Rabindranath Tagore won a Nobel and Iqbal did not. And to some extent, that turned him very, you can say, supporter of this separatist movement of what later became Pakistan. And Iqbal is even attributed that when the kings of Iran and Iraq invited Tagore to their country, writing letters and you can say disparaging or discouraging and having comments about Tagore. So there was a fair degree of rivalry. Now, with all of this background, you know, I just want to add one more thing to all the today. It's I don't want to get into what happens today, but when the Jallianwala Bagh massacre happened, Rabindranath Tagore, who had been knighted by the British government in 1915 after he had won a Nobel Prize, you see, they felt embarrassed enough to knight him. He returned his knighthood. That was returning, you can say, a knighthood for a very important cause. Now, this is the politics part of it. The reason why Rabindranath Tagore must not just be considered a Bengali icon, but the fact that he stood up for his country, returned his knighthood, etc., he must be considered a national icon. But I want to go beyond politics now into spirituality. Now, with all of these factors in my mind, and as a proud Indian, when I finally read, I don't know, in childhood we read this poem called "Without the When the Mind is Without Fear," and it was a very beautifully written nationalistic poem. But when I read it, I was blown by the spirituality of it. Even great spiritual gurus have not expressed such beauty as Tagore has in Gitanjali. You know, things prove to be even beautiful than the hype. And I just want to read a few verses. I want to get beyond the history and the significance of it to read a little bit of those lines and actually talk it from a pure spiritual and literary pleasure. Hold on, I am really not good at this, but let me read out a few lines from two or three of my favorite poems here. Okay. There's a poem called Waiting. The song I came to sing remains unsung to this day. I have spent my days in stringing and unstringing my instrument. The time has not come true. The words have not been rightly said. Only there is agony of wishing in my heart. I'm just kind of surfing through. I don't want to read full poems, but the man writes such beautiful stuff that, you are left mesmerized. Wait, let me read another thing. Paper boats. Day by day I float my paper boats, one by one down the running stream. In the big black letters I write my name on them and the names of the village where I live. I hope that someone in some strange land will find them and know who I am. If you just understand and experience the beauty of these words, the depth of someone who wants to say so much, what all of what are trying to do through videos, through writings, through so many other ways, experiencing life, each of these lines can keep you sleepless at nights thinking about what all there is in this profundity of life. As a youngster, I read a lot of English poetry. I read Yeats, I read Wordsworth. Of course, Yeats was my favorite. And I really thought that there is nobody greater in the 20th century. And then I found out that Yeats read Gitanjali and he was so impressed with this Indian poet that he really campaigned very hard for it to win the Nobel Prize. And I was left humbled that I have nothing against Yeats, but that fact that we as Indians know English poets first and then we find out about Indian greats. Please read him if you are a proud nationalist. Read him if you want to know about the freedom struggle. Read him if you want to feel proud as an Indian, but read him if you are interested in love, in spirituality, and in beautiful, beautiful literature. Thank you. I hope I have done justice to a very, very, very great man. And by the way, the reason why I make this video today is because it just popped up that today in history is when Gitanjali won the Nobel Prize. Thank you. Bye bye.